Oops, I did it again. What, you ask? I went down the Amelia Earhart rabbit hole. The conspiracy theories, the possibility of the plane being found, the original flight, her co-pilot, all of it. I would say about once a year, I fall victim to Amelia Earhart clickbait. Kristen, I can see you peeking through the door. I don't need an audience, dear. What time are you leaving for work this morning? You're leaving in 5 minutes. Perfect. No, seriously. This time around, I saw an article. A pilot, a veteran pilot, as a matter of fact, believes that he has found Amelia Earhart's long lost plane on a remote Pacific island with the help of Google Earth nearly 90 years after she vanished. So he's basically claiming that he can see what looks like the shape of the type of plane that she was flying on the island of Nikumararu, or Niku, let's see if I can pronounce this, Nikumaroro, a tiny island of Kiribati located between Hawaii and Fiji near the center of the Pacific Ocean. And he noted a dark colored object exactly 39 feet in length, matching the length of Earhart's aircraft. So that led me down the whole rabbit hole. And I just feel like you never know what's fact and what's fiction when it comes to Amelia Earhart. There's so many theories. There's so many claims that the plane has been found, that her body was recovered, that there are artifacts from the plane that were found, and none of it is confirmed or proven. You're never hearing any of this, by the way, from a credible source, a credible, accredited media outlet. It's never on people.com or CNN or NBC News or any of it. Dateline. I don't know what the other big news outlets are these days. It's never on The View. You never hear Joy Behar or Whoopi Goldberg or Sunny Hostin talking about Amelia Earhart's plane being found. So my point is, you really can't trust any of the headlines that you read about Amelia Earhart, which is why I say that it's clickbait. And it is. It's like she is one of those figures, and that is one of those cases that the media will just continue to speculate about. It's like John Benet Ramsey. Like, we're never going to get a clear, definitive answer. But every year or so, they're going to drop breadcrumbs, and they're going to tease you, and they're going to make you believe that the case has been solved or that the plane has been found, and you're going to go down this rabbit hole, you're going to spiral, and then you're going to learn that this is all speculation, this is all theory, and none of it's actually confirmed or true, which is frustrating. And while we're on the topic of, small planes disappearing, I should talk about the series finale of Love Story, or I guess it would be the season finale, since this is like an anthology series, right? And we can expect that Ryan Murphy is going to do another season of this show, but focused on a different couple. Hold on, let me just adjust the mic. I feel like ever since Lisa started podcasting here at my apartment, I feel like she moved the microphone. And we'll get there, by the way. I will share my honest, unfiltered take on Live, Laugh, Lisa, which is a co-production between Made Out East and Lisa Gallo. And I have some thoughts about her first episode. Let's just say that. But going back to Love Story, if I'm being honest, I felt that the final episode was in really poor taste for a number of reasons. I felt that the whole series itself could have been like one episode shorter, because the last two episodes just felt like nothing really groundbreaking happened. They really stretched it out. They really dragged it out. And then the last episode in particular just felt very exploitative. I felt that they rewrote history, because we know with certainty that Carolyn and her sister Lauren were sitting in the back of the plane. I'm fairly certain, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain that when the bodies were recovered, they were able to prove that Carolyn was in the back seat of the plane next to Lauren. So why Ryan just decided to rewrite history and sensationalize and exaggerate that particular moment and have her go into the cockpit with him, it just felt like you are taking the saddest moment of these people's lives and something we know happened, and you are twisting it to make it more entertaining or more emotionally compelling. And that felt cheap to me. And I also felt that they spent way too much time covering the aftermath of the plane crash and the reaction of the family members. If this was supposed to be a show about their love story, then it should have just ended with that scene. But instead, they like wanted to recreate how Caroline Kennedy reacted and how her mom, Carolyn and Lauren's mom, reacted. And again, that just felt like they were creating dramatic entertainment for no reason, just to give people something to talk about and just to essentially draw in viewers, which I did not appreciate. And I also ultimately just felt it was very strange that they eliminated his cousin Anthony from the final episode. I mean, he was such a character throughout, and we know he was like the most important person in John F. Kennedy Jr.'s life. And that summer, he was dying of cancer, and his partner, his wife, Carol Radziwill, later known for The Real Housewives of New York City, was a huge part of John and Carolyn's life, and they were completely eliminated for no reason. But Anthony, who was included in the show, they basically made no mention of him in the last episode, which would have made more sense to show his reaction than other people's. But I think that Sarah Pidgeon, who played Carolyn, really is a great actress. I think she did a great job. I thought that John, the guy who played him, I can't even remember his name, he was fine. I think he did the best he could. I think, I'm sure the expectations were very high, and he delivered in most cases. But in some scenes, he just felt like he was overacting. I'm sure people will disagree. I'm sure people will agree. But at the end of the day, I respect any television show that gets people talking the way that one has, and definitely can appreciate all of the nostalgia and, those feelings that it stirs up. Now, on the subject of television shows, let's talk about The Comeback, episode 2. Oh, sorry. Yes, we're going to need a little refill of coffee before you go, because I can't get up. If you could top me off, please. Yeah, you'll have to climb around the tripod. Comeback episode 2. Thank God Jane is back, and they're reintroducing the whole layer of her filming Valerie, because I will say that was severely. No, why? I don't need more milk, dear. Oh, okay. Yes, you can get coffee as well. I thought that was sorely missing from the first episode, and I felt I didn't even want to acknowledge or admit it, but I was feeling internally that like there was something missing from the show. There was like a frantic, chaotic energy that was missing because Valerie was not being captured by cameras. And I think that influences so much of her personality that without it, I'm not sure if it was just Lisa Kudrow's performance and delivery or if it was actually deliberate to kind of paint the character in this way, but she felt like almost emotionless and a little bit kind of flat. Like she was sort of deflated as a character. Like she didn't have the same spark, the same like excitement or enthusiasm or brightness in her eyes. And I really do wonder, I think after the fact, we will learn that was a deliberate creative choice to show the character Valerie and how different she is when she's being filmed and when she's not. So remember, sorry, I'm just going to wait for Kristen to finish clamoring with things in the fridge. Why don't you just go upstairs and join the Taekwondo lesson that's going on up there? I don't know what the fuck goes on at all hours of the day, but it sounds like they're bowling or moving furniture or doing, back handsprings. Maybe he did fall down the stairs. Wouldn't be the first person to do that here. Anyway, so that's my opinion of episode 2 of The Comeback. Now I'm going to refer to my notes because I did have quite a few things to discuss on this episode. Of course, we have to talk about the Summer House scandal. I know Kristen is anxiously awaiting my take on that, but I'm going to wait until she leaves. Is it fall again? Is it winter again? It's cold out? Okay. You can turn the fireplace off, actually, because I'm sweating in this robe. This robe, which, by the way, we will get to. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, not many of you, will see that I am wearing a very special robe this morning. Where was I? Okay, so Amanda and West. I'm shocked, but I'm also not. And here's why. I remember watching the most recent episode last week, and I thought it was so interesting how when Amanda and Kyle were fighting, Wes kind of came to Amanda's rescue, and he went into the bathroom and they had like a really deep emotional heart to heart. And I remember thinking, feels like they have a very intimate relationship, these two. And then when Kyle walked into the bedroom, I thought, oh shit, is Kyle going to get like pissed off or suspicious that West and Amanda are in the bathroom together? So like I definitely clocked that moment and I thought there's something odd about the dynamic right now between West and Amanda. But then recently there had been all these rumors about her and Jesse, Amanda and Jesse, which turned out to be bogus. And then recently as well, Amanda went on a podcast and she was so adamant that she would never date one of her co-stars. Like she said it with such conviction. And I felt there's no way once these rumors started to actually swirl and circulate, I was like, there's no way that this could be true because I mean, she just went out on the record and said that she would never do that. Like, why would someone ever make that claim so definitively if they were, in fact, secretly dating one of their co-stars? Like, that needs to be unpacked and studied. Like, if that were the case, if she was dating West at the time that she taped that podcast and made that comment, then she really, like, is unwell because you need to like learn how to evade questions better if you're hiding something because you just look like an absolute idiot if you come out and say something and you're doing the exact polar opposite. So again, I really couldn't believe that she would say that if this rumor were true. And so when she finally did make the announcement, I was stunned for a minute. I thought I could have sworn this was all just noise and that people were, letting it intensify because it's great publicity for the show. And they're trying to, lure in viewers for the reunion and their new show that is going to be airing soon in the city, which taped after Summer House. So presumably we're going to see some of these dynamics maybe develop and unfold over the course of that show. And so I thought this was all just hype for the reunion and the new show. And so everyone's saying, oh my God, Summer House can't survive this. I'm like, what do you mean? This is like breathing whole new life into Summer House. This is the kind of scandal, like Scandival, that a series dreams of. Everyone is jumping on this bandwagon and everyone is now trying to use this to further their own celebrity. So I think ultimately they're all going to be okay. I do feel for Amanda because I'm sure she's like on the receiving end of a lot of hate right now. But I also can't help but feel like, listen, if they weren't cheating and they weren't secretly sleeping around, which I still now question, I do believe actually, I think it will be revealed that they were sleeping around for longer and that this relationship didn't just start as recently as they would like us to believe. Now, if that is not the case, then I would say, listen, Amanda and Kyle split up and Kyle and West, I mean, listen, I don't know how close they were as friends. Like they were boys, like they are kind of co-workers and they live in this house together and film this show. I don't think they have the strongest relationship. Amanda and Ciara, on the other hand, were very close. But I would like to think that if Amanda and West started to feel these real feelings for one another, that's something that you can't necessarily help. You don't choose to feel that way about someone or fall for someone. I think she should have done the right thing by going to Ciara first and basically sharing that with her, expressing her feelings and hoping that Ciara would give her blessing. And Ciara would be a bigger, mature person to give her blessing because it didn't work out between her and West. So it's like, I don't like this concept of you claim someone for the rest of your life. Like you can have something meaningful with someone and then it ultimately doesn't work out and then maybe they're better suited for someone else in your life. And I feel like everyone should be adult and mature and allow those situations to happen without hurt feelings or animosity getting involved. Maybe that's me being naive, or maybe that's just men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I don't know. But that's really how I'm feeling about the whole situation. I did see on the New York Post that the house where they film in Sag Harbor on Deerfield Road is now for sale, and it's also listed on Airbnb, which is curious because I wonder, they must not be filming there this summer then. So in theory, if they decided like spontaneously to cancel the show, maybe they alerted the homeowner and said, hey, by the way, we're not going to need your house this summer. We're not filming there. So the homeowner just scrambled and listed it because they were counting on that money. That's one theory. The other theory is they're going to have to film at a new house. And the third theory is the only way to find out is for me to take a ride over to Deerfield Road later today on my way to Bridgehampton. And I'm going to go to the scene and I'm going to report live and let you know what's going on at the summer house itself. I know there is a gate, but perhaps I can ring the bell and say that I am a prospective buyer and see what happens. You know what? In fact, I think it's listed with Saunders. I'm going to call up some of my friends at Saunders and see if they can get me a private showing. That would be fun, huh? So, yeah, I mean, I was actually in Montauk when I heard of this news. And I said, that's quite fitting because, the first season of Summer House was filmed in Montauk. You really feel their energy and their spirit around you when you're there. And you might be wondering what I was doing in Montauk on a Monday and Tuesday afternoon in March. Well, I did the off-season special at Gurney's Resort and Spa. I'm sorry, Seawater Resort and Spa, which is lovely. I do it once a year, and last year I didn't really get a chance to utilize the spa much because it was still kind of in the final stages of construction. And they really did a whole kind of gut renovation. They transformed it. Even the lobby is different. It looks great, and it's definitely a special property out here for those of you who know, because it is oceanfront and it's kind of a big, massive, sprawling resort-like property as opposed to these smaller boutique hotels and Airbnbs and inns and such. So you kind of feel like, or at least I do, I feel like I'm in California when I'm there, sitting in front of the fire pit overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. It has like a Malibu kind of feel. So my dear friend Christine, who is really, those of you who know, she goes by the name Church because her last name is Churchill. She's actually one of my sister's best friends. They've been best friends since high school. My sister Tina, who's 4 years older than me. So I always knew Christine growing up as like my older sister's best friend. And then Christine and I became really close ourselves like around the time of my sister's wedding in 2011 because we were all spending a lot of time together. And Christine and I just kind of developed this really kind of wonderful rapport. We would spend time together. We always had a good time. And that bond just deepened over the years. And, as she became more like family to my sister and my parents, she became more like a sister figure to me. Then she started to bang my best friend Khalil around the time of my sister's wedding. And so then there was another layer of complexity to our relationship because I had to navigate through that delicate situation of my friend and my essentially sister being together. We had to take several trips back and forth to Detroit, Dearborn, actually, where he lived. And that whole situation ended in catastrophe. But thankfully, I've managed to maintain my friendship with Khalil and my relationship with Christine, and they also have remained friends. So maybe West and Kyle and Amanda and Ciara could take a page out of the Khalil and Christine playbook. And yeah. So anyway, getting back to Gurney's. So we were driving to Gurney's, and this is going to be a tangent, but it's something I've wanted to discuss for quite some time on this podcast because it's something that does affect me on a daily basis, and that is road rage. Because I am, if I'm being honest, prone to road rage outbursts. Something happens. I think I have the Gorga temper, I say, like Teresa and Joey, where I just will flip a table if, you say the wrong thing to me. And especially when I'm driving and I feel that I've been wronged on the road, I get very angry and I grit my teeth and I make a fist and I'm ready to fucking hurt somebody. But the problem when you live in a very small town like Sag Harbor is you can't have that kind of road rage reaction. You just can't, because the odds of the other person in the other vehicle being someone that you A, either know, or B, are friends with or work for is so high that you just have to basically not react when you have some sort of incident on the road, because there have been moments where, someone's cut me off or, there's been like a little altercation at a light and I'm about to be like, you motherfucker. And then I'm like, oh shit, that's Tina Pignatelli. Hi, Tina, like say hi to Mala. So you really have to be very careful before you react when you're driving locally. But when you are on a highway and you encounter something, all bets are off. So we were driving to Montauk and, we were on the stretch, the Napeague stretch between Amagansett and Montauk, like passing the Clam Bar and Lunch and all those places. And now it's one lane and then there's oncoming traffic the other way. And it's, people are driving 50 miles an hour. And so I am driving in the right lane. Christine is in front of me, and then there's probably 10 more cars in the lane in front of us. So everyone's driving at like a decent speed. And all of a sudden, this white fucking Mercedes sedan comes up behind me like a bat out of hell, and then all of a sudden swerves into the left lane into oncoming traffic and speeds up and is essentially then trying to speed up and then cut back into the right lane and cut everybody off so that they can drive faster. Like they were trying to go around everyone. But mind you, it's not like I was the only car driving and I wasn't driving fast enough so he could just easily and safely, not even safely, but easily speed around me, cut me off, and then, go off on his way. Where he was going in such a rush at 10:30 in the morning, I don't fucking know. Like on your way to see Father Liam maybe at church because, you have sinned and you are in such a desperate rush to get to church to do some penance. That's the only acceptable explanation for why you would be fucking speeding and driving recklessly in Montauk at 10:30 in the morning. So then, I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck is this guy doing? Because mind you, there's oncoming traffic coming in the other lane. And I can see now that he's like, fuck, I didn't realize how many cars there were in front of this guy. So now he like has to really maneuver and cut somebody off. Like it was a very tight squeeze for him to get back into the right lane before having a head-on collision with the person in the left lane. So I'm like, what the fuck? So what was that for, mister? Or Mrs. I assume it was a man because he just like drove with male rage. And I was like, you literally just almost caused an accident to cut off two people on Montauk Highway now to be sandwiched between two more cars. Like, what were you trying to achieve? You did not get any further. Now you're just two cars ahead in the lane. So I was then like, fuck, I was so tempted to just like veer off into the right lane, which is the bike lane, and speed up to his car. And I had my pink Glinda Stanley cup, which is very heavy. It's very weighty, that thing. I had it in the cup holder and I was so tempted. I wanted to take that, roll down my window and hurl it at his windshield and shatter it and say, serves you right. Hope it was worth it, you motherfucker. I was so angry at this person and I just couldn't understand what their motivation was. It's like when people ride your ass. There's nothing that will send me over the edge like somebody tailgating me on the highway. Like if you are too close for comfort and you are clearly trying to intimidate me to drive faster when I'm already going 10 miles over the speed limit, that really pisses me off. And like, again, I'm tempted to do something stupid. I'm like, I'm going to fucking slam on the brakes. I don't care if I go through the fucking windshield. I'll do it just to prove a point. I will literally risk my own life just to prove a point to you so that you rear end me. I go flying through the windshield. The airbag deploys. And you know what? Then I get up off the fucking pavement. I remove the broken glass from my face and I calmly walk over to your vehicle and say, you fucked with the wrong guy. Okay. And now I'm taking your ass to court and I'm suing you for all you're worth. Because really, just like calm down on the road, people, please. So anyway, we finally get to Gurney's and, I booked this hotel on a website called travelzoo.com. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Travelzoo, but they offer, discounted rates and such. So usually when you book on Travelzoo for the discounted rate, you are assigned to an ocean view room. Now, this is semantics, guys, but there is a major difference between ocean view and ocean front. So when I checked in, the lovely gentleman at the desk, Amos, was so friendly. I did my whole shtick, hi, I'm here on a staycation. I work at Tuto and Sag Harbor. Here's my card. Should you ever need anything, never hesitate. I'm trying to kiss his ass and make him realize that I can help him in Sag Harbor if he, hooks me up here in Montauk. And by the way, there's nothing I need more than for everyone at Gurney's or anywhere at a local hotel to know than the fact that I am a local. Like if I could wear a shirt that says I'm on a staycation, I live here, I'm not, a tourist, I would. But instead, I just like make sure that I verbalize that to everyone and anyone. It's like, oh, hi, I'm at the bar. I'll do a spicy margarita. Oh, we make great margaritas at Tuto. I work at Tuto. I live in Sag Harbor. I'm just here for the night on a staycation. Because I want them to know that A, I'm in hospitality, and B, I'm not some schmuck from, I was going to say Up Island, Massapequa, but I wouldn't want to offend Lisa Gallo. Although she has no problem offending me, clearly, on her podcast, and we'll get there. I'm going to save that for the very end, okay? So anyway, so I'm checking in. Hold on, camera stopped. So I'm checking in, and Amos is like, okay, the room is ready, and he circles the room on the map of the property, and I see that he has assigned us to a room in the 600 section, okay? So again, on YouTube, I'm holding up a map so you can see the 600s are basically across the street, high up above, perched on a little hill overlooking the rest of the property, but they are barely connected to the restaurant, the fire pits, the spa, and they are not adjacent to the beach. And I said, listen, Amos, you got to help me out here. I said, I'm happy to wait all day. I'm happy to pay an additional fee, but you got to work with me here. You got to get me, if not in the Forward Watch building, the 100s to the 405, you got to get me somewhere in the 500s to, really the 500s. You got to get me in the 500s. I need to be somewhere close enough to walk to the spa in a robe. And also, I need oceanfront, my friend. I need to open my sliding glass door and hear and see the ocean within 50 feet. And so I stepped away for a moment. I let him do his thing. And I came back and he came through and he said, Mr. Pizzulo, I am pleased to inform you that we will have in a few hours, a lovely room in the 500s. And so we ultimately were awarded room 562 and it was a great location with a great view. So while we were waiting for the room, Christine and I went to the spa. So she had booked a massage and I had just booked the bathhouse. So I went to the gym first for a little bit, which was nice. I think they're still kind of in the process of renovating and finishing it, but they had enough equipment there. There's a nice area where you're on, the elliptical and you're overlooking the indoor pool, which is essentially like Great Wolf Lodge, or at least it was this week because it was spring break. So it was, crawling with young kids and families, which is really the only thing that I didn't like about my experience there. I did not expect it to be so crowded, and I certainly did not expect so many kids, especially at the pool. Like I said, I'm looking at this pool thinking I'm at fucking Hurricane Harbor now, because it's like filled with boogie boards and noodles and kids diving and jumping and playing, and I'm like, I just want to relax by the pool. Mind you, the pool, which is not even heated. So when I did try and go in, it was so bitterly cold that I immediately retreated and instead just sat on one of the damp lounge chairs. But I digress. So instead of going in the pool, I went to the bathhouse. And I love a bathhouse, but I also am incredibly skeeved out by bathhouses. So I love a sauna. I love a steam room. I love a hot plunge. We did the cold plunge. We did it all. We did all the temperatures. And I enjoyed it, but I always in the back of my mind am like a little grossed out because it's always like a lot of people and like sweating. And I'm just like, I don't know, like something a little gross about it. But nevertheless, we enjoyed. And so afterwards, what did we do? Well, actually during our time at the pool and the bathhouse, we kept going back and forth to the bar after we had lunch outside by the fire pit. And we helped ourselves to several rounds of the El Diablo margaritas, which are sort of like Gatorade margaritas, I would describe them as, in the best way possible. They were delicious. So we had a few of those. And then after the spa, we went back to the room and freshened up. And then we went to dinner at one of my favorite places locally in Montauk for sushi, the Inlet. We took an Uber there. May as well have taken the Uber to JFK for the price that we paid because it was astronomically expensive for a Monday evening, considering the drive was about 7 minutes. But again, better safe than sorry. And so We had a lovely dinner at the inlet. We closed the place down, not because we wanted to, but because our Uber to return was delayed by about 30 minutes. It kept canceling and we had to keep calling different ones, and it was a whole process to get back, but we did. And then the next day, we were assured rather, that, we could use the bathhouse and the pool facility the day that we were checking out because, it's accessible to all hotel guests and we are still hotel guests. So I got us a late checkout. We went for a nice beach walk. And then after we did some work, we checked out of the room and then we went over to the spa and we were like, okay, we're going to use the facility and the property for the rest of the afternoon, even though we checked out today. And you could tell instantly, the faces of these people working the desk changed. Like from one day to the next. The day before, they were so warm and welcoming, and it was like, what do you need? What can we provide? But as soon as we told them we had checked out that morning, we were like second-class citizens. It was like, ooh. And so I said, we're just going to use the bathhouse today. Like neither of us has a treatment booked, but we're going to use the sauna and we're going to maybe sit by the pool. And so we said, can we trouble you for some robes? And they said, oh, we don't have any robes today. I'm sorry. Today, robes are for those with spa treatments only. And before they said this, it was a man and a woman. They sort of looked at each other. Like when I said, may I have a robe? They looked at each other and they gave each other these eyes and they were like, we're not giving up a robe to this guy. And so like they were each waiting on the other one to come up with some excuse. And finally one of them spoke up and then the other one was nodding his head as if like, yeah, so sorry. Same thing happened when Christine asked for a robe. It was so sorry. We're running low on robes today. So they're only for those getting treatments. And we were just so confused because it was not an issue the day before. And, there aren't that many people here today, certainly less than yesterday. Where are the robes? Where are you hiding the robes? And so both of us are now annoyed. Like, well, what are we going to do then? We're supposed to just roam around the whole facility in bathing suits and flip-flops. It kind of ruins the whole experience. So we get into the locker room, or I get into the men's locker room. And so, I'm fidgeting in my locker and I hear the distinct sound of the maintenance closet being opened with the combination code, beep, 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 beep. So I, make a beeline around the corner. And sure enough, I see this man, this maintenance worker, and he's going into this little room. And I look in and I see shelves and shelves of robes. And I said, what the fuck? I said, these MFers, they're just not giving us robes because we checked out today. And that is bullshit. So I said to the guy, excuse me, sir, may I please have one of those robes? You clearly have plenty. There seems to be no shortage of robes. So may I please have one? And he so graciously offered me one. Of course, sir, yes. That's what these robes are for the guests to enjoy. So then I tried to get another one. I said, I have a friend in the women's locker room. May I have one for her as well? And he said, oh no, they have them in there. So then I holler to Christine. I said, Christine, I got a robe. They have them in the women's locker room too. Get one. And she comes storming out saying, no, they don't have them here. And so she asks a woman nearby. And again, now this woman, she clearly got the directive from upstairs. She got her marching orders, her talking points from upstairs. No, ma'am, so sorry, we don't have enough robes today. I said, I just saw a closet full of robes. Why are you withholding these robes? Please, someone make it make sense. And so after a little back and forth, finally, they surrendered one of the robes to Christine. Mind you, it was a gray robe. So now there's, you clearly have enough white robes and you have gray robes as well. So get your story straight. So ultimately we got robes and we hung out again at the bathhouse. And then we departed later that evening and we drove to East Hampton and we had a really lovely early dinner at one of my favorite restaurants, maybe top 5 favorite restaurants in the Hamptons, the 1770 House. And we ate downstairs in the little basement cellar. And I had the burger, which is maybe my favorite, top 5 certainly. See that recurring theme here. Top 5 best burgers in the Hamptons. And then Christine left and I drove home. And I got to bed early. And then I woke up the next day and I had a meeting with my new client at Cluckman's and Pizza, which those of you who live in Sag Harbor know is a I would describe it as a chicken joint, but they have wonderful fresh salads and sandwiches and other kind of international specialties, tacos and things of that nature. They have a whole separate pizza section on their menu, and it's owned by local restaurateurs Michael Gluckman and Lila, whose name I never remember. So I just call her Lila Mountbatten Windsor because I know that it's a hyphenated last name. It's something French like Bordeaux, a Beaufort, Godot, something like that. And so they have brought me on in a social media creative capacity for a trial run of 3 months to see if I can help them increase their social media engagement and create some fun, viral content. And I reluctantly agreed to do this because a guy's got to eat, and I do need to make some extra money right now to pay for an upcoming trip because, as you know, Lisa and I are going to Amsterdam, and in order to gain access to the Anne Frank Museum, I have had to call in favors from multiple people, and ultimately, it looks like we are going to get tickets through some back channel resources, but I may have to pay a little premium, and it's going to require me to, take some people out prior and schmooze and thank them. So long story short, I need some extra cash for this trip. And so I agreed to do the social media for Cluckman's. And we'll see how that goes. I do really love their salads. All their food is great. The burgers, everything. I'm just, as you know, I'm on a little bit of a diet at the moment. So I'm not really indulging in some of the more tasty, decadent dishes on their menu. I'm sticking to the salads, but they're very good. So that brings me to Lisa Gallo, of course, and her podcast, which I graciously gifted her. Because listen, she has been begging me, pleading with me since I started recording mine to be a guest. And I said, Lisa, I'm just not really ready for guests yet. It adds another layer to this thing, and I'm enjoying recording on my own. I feel like I'm trying to establish the tone of the show on my own. And so she was over one day, she saw the equipment, she said, oh, I have all these things I really want to talk about. I think I would make a good podcast host. Can I, play around and record and just see what it sounds like? I said, sure, knock yourself out. Go ahead. And so before I know it, she whips out this whole, run of show. She was prepared. She was just waiting for this opportunity. And so after I heard her record, I said, you know what? You want to be a big shot? Here, I'll make you your own podcast. And so I did. I created the show Live, Laugh, Lisa, and I published it to Apple Podcast. And I told her she could record anytime she wants and she can upload the episodes at her leisure. Never in a million years did I think that the entire episode would be about me. It turns out she does not have that much to talk about on her own aside from, her screen time and her adventures in Del Rey, which, riveting as that may be, it's essentially a Pez Dispenses counter podcast. So she's just using her platform to refute anything that I say or tell her version of my stories and my life and insult me along the way. Because in the first episode, she went on and on about how her show is all unscripted and spontaneous and it's not thought out, but how I plan out meticulously what I'm going to say and then I edit things and it's all, fabricated. I'm like, Lisa, that is not true at all. I mean, I am an improv artist. I taught you everything you know about improv. So I'm not over here rehearsing my podcasts like you suggested. And so I was highly insulted by that insinuation. I think that, she's clearly trying to just slander my name, and I'm not going to allow her to do it. I haven't even listened to the second episode because you know what? I'm over it. With that being said, I do want to wish Lisa the best of luck on her new venture because she'll need it. And I would encourage you all to listen to it and to rate, review, and subscribe. And please do the same for this podcast, Pez Dispenses. Rate, review, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more episodes coming up this month, April, Easter month. Wow, we have Easter coming this weekend. It's also Passover, I think, right? Coming up. Well, I thought it was Wednesday, but I've already seen people posting Seder dinners. So I'm actually confused as to when Passover is. But whenever it is, I say to all of my Jewish brothers and sisters, Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. And to my Catholic brothers and sisters, I say, may the peace of the Lord be with you always and also with you. Let us offer each other a sign of peace. And just remember, before supper was ended, Jesus took the cup. Again, he gave it thanks and praise. He took the cup, gave it to his disciples, and said, take this, all of you, and drink from it. This is the cup of my blood, the blood of the new and everlasting covenant. It will be shed for you and for all so that sins may be forgiven. Do this in memory of me. Wow, that was such perfect timing and coincidence that I would have this little bell here, which I use to, call Kristen, when I need a coffee refill or popcorn or something around the house. And it just reminded me of when we were in church as kids and the priest would do that. He would take that big bell and he would ring it, and that would signify the body and blood being transformed. No, I'm sorry, the bread and the wine being transformed into the body and blood of Christ. How's that for fucking religious karma, I mean, I just proved to myself and everyone listening that I am a good person and that I will go to heaven. So I hope to see you there, but not anytime soon. Okay, gotta go. Ciao, love you.